Χαίρετε. Hello. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Καλησπέρα σε όλους.
Hello. Γεια σου.
Καλησπέρα.
Hello.
Πάλι Έλληνας.
Όχι νομίζω.
Α, τι είσαι, ωραία.
Α,
Hello to and welcome to another Blender session. I just downloaded a Blender version that is not installed in my PC, so I can install it and walk you through on how to arrange a new Blender installation. And the one I downloaded was just a zip file, so you probably won't download this kind of version. This is a version to be released, a release candidate. I'm in the Blender site in the experimental section. Each candidate has a bit of difference in code, in programming, in different aspects of Blender. And so they release candidates and then they debug the versions, and when it becomes beta version, they release it. So the candidates come in a zip file, And if you open it, you see all these files. It's not a window installer where you press install and end and easy stuff. Anyway, so I'll click on the Blender launcher, and my windows say that this is a good program, so, but who cares? And this file is 1 gigabyte. Okay. So when it unfortunately it opens the load factory settings. Yes, load factory settings. So here we go. If first of all, if you have any questions, of course, please raise your hand and I will try to check. So this is what you are seeing when you first install Blender. And let's go again on how to move the windows and make different layouts as we like and as the program, the project requires. Now, when maybe you have probably you have in mind that you would like a section to be the materials, a section to be the list of items, a section to be the properties. But if you look above, you will see that it says after on the file row, file, edit, render, windows, help, and then it goes layout, modeling, sculpting, UV editing, texture painting, shading, animation, rendering, compositing, blah, 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 blah. Now, these are like tabs that you can change so that you won't change your layout view, your layout setup. Let's click on modeling. It takes you to a tab here that you can change as you like. Yeah, so Sarah is seeing this. This is a screen that pops up first when you first install it. It just asks you what do you want to do with your mouse select. It has a left and a right. It's a weird question because we all have been accustomed to programs that use left click as the select click, but the the founder of Blender, Don Rosenthal, is very persistent in trying to make us select with the right click because he says it's better for your hand, so you won't get tired because you always use the left, your index finger, I think. So, and it asks you if you want the space bar, when you press the space bar, what to do. The play is for the timeline section for animations. Just press continue, everything is fine. Don't worry about it. And then once you have done it, the next time or the same time you open it, it shows you this stuff. And just click somewhere else, no problem. You don't have to really do anything with this. Maybe click the open file or recover last session. It's just for a comfort, stuff. Anyway, so we have those tabs above, and let's say when you know that this week you're going to be modeling stuff, there's no real reason to change the layout. The first tab, which is a general tab, you can just change the modeling tab to create panels and stuff. It's the same way that you do in the layout. Next, you have sculpting. Now in sculpting, these things changed a bit, and Wait, because subdivides. These things change a bit because sculpting has different tools for you to use. So it's a really different layout than if you go to the first tab and you would like to sculpt. It changes again. Your sidebar changes, but it's best if you go here because it's the panels are all set up. Next, you have the UV editing. It's the unwrapping process. After you model something, you unwrap it so that the flat textures can be placed correctly on a 3D model. Next, you have texture paint. If you want to create your own model, your own materials and textures, you can have your object and paint it as you see it. It's a little weird. I haven't done it too many times because of the nature of our work. But if you are creating characters and other stuff, or maybe if you want to have a good a texture that is, you know, clear and new, and you want to make it a bit dirty, or you want to add cracks on it or stuff like that, then you go here. But since our work is to, you know, produce new buildings with new furniture inside and everything is new, you don't really need to go that far. You need to make it look realistic when everything is new, which is really hard because when stuff when models have dust on them or cracks, or it tricks your brain to thinking that it's a bit more realistic, which stuff around you all have dust and are worn out by usage. Anyway, next is the shading. You see that it has the shader window here, a big shader window here, and it automatically loads the rendering process. Now it says compiling EV shaders. It's gone now. Anyway, it automatically renders what you are seeing. And animation, same thing. The timeline is at the bottom. Rendering. This is the tab where it shows you the render you have made. Compositing. Blender has a lot of tools for compositing, like Photoshop and Lightroom. You can change them here. In the compositor, I have to make something so something shows. Geometry nodes is a new part of Blender since maybe 1 year. And it's a procedural way of creating 3D models. It's a node-based system that has amazing abilities. And last is scripting. If any one of you knows Python language, scripting language, you can use this part of Blender and you can make it do whatever you want to do. So let's go back to the first tab, the layout tab. So since this is a first install, what I see here is a cube, a formal cube. Anyway, formal known as cube. Let's delete that. We see a light, delete that. We see a camera, delete that. Of course, at some point you are going to use lights and cameras, but unless you want to, we are now going to make a startup file for Blender. So unless you have a fixed position each time for a camera or a light, which you won't, you don't really need them. Plus the startup file gets heavier for no reason. So on the bottom, this is the first panel that will go, which is the timeline. You don't need it unless you are going to do animations, which I hardly doubt at this point. So if you take your cursor to the bottom left and maybe my name is showing right there, but anyway, bottom left corner of a window, a panel, it turns it to a cross. Click and hold your left key and drag down so that the big screen above takes out the little screen below, and the timeline just vanished. Now, what we don't see on the right is this panel, which has some information that we really need and use. This opens and closes with a keyboard shortcut N next to M, N. So we want that open. And we would like to see somewhere our shaders. Maybe let's place our shaders on the bottom, because let's create a panel. Let's take our our cursor mouse to the bottom left corner, click and hold, drag up. The first icon on each window is the type of window we are viewing. So click, it opens the full list, and we choose shader editor. Now, why would we want to have it there? Because Shift A to create a cube, great. Click new to the shader editor while we have it new here, and it creates a material. Now, the materials usually, the shaders usually go from left to right, usually. On the right, you have the node called material output. It's the end product of what you have on the left. And maybe you have to place a value on the, let's say, whatever, an RGB value on the base color, RGB, and maybe you want to do something with this hue saturation node, and the node tree just keeps getting larger on the horizontal positions. Sarah, do you want to please?
Sorry, it was too fast for me.
No.
How did you create this new one?
The new panel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I take
No, this, yes, this, and then it's black and empty. And how do you get this box?
You just press on the new, select the object you want to apply a new material, and press new.
Okay.
Here. Okay. And you can see now that it says material 0.002 because it kept on the memory the first material. And if you want to change through materials, you click here. If you leave your cursor anywhere, it will have a tooltip. So here, material 001, material 002, and material, just to close the subject, the material 001 has a 0 in front of it because no one is using it. So if I want to clear my project of unnecessary stuff and go to File, Cleanup, Purge, Unused Data, that material, which no one uses, will be gone. So be careful with that. Anyway, so I created a new panel by taking my cursor to bottom left corner, click and drag, left click and drag up, or wherever you can go right. And again, at the same way, you can click, drag to the window you want to make it disappear. Also, you can right click, you can take your mouse where the up and down arrows come up, and right click and go to, let's say, vertical split, and choose where you want to split your window. Anyway, the process is easy enough. You just need a bit of a practice. And so you could say that you would like to place your material shader because the tree node, the node tree goes horizontal to the bottom of the screen. No problem. On your right, we have this panel, which is the properties panel. It has properties for your object and also for Blender. Above it, we have the outliner panel. And look, now it's a good setup. Maybe you would like to add another panel here because the shaders panel is a bit too long. Maybe create another panel here for the UV editor things you would like to do. Like I want to unwrap this cube, and by default, it's unwrapped. Like you unwrap a present, it's unwrapped this way, and maybe I don't want it to be, you know, whatever. So whenever you press tab and select something, it shows the unwrapping phase of that polygon or that selection. So this is a pretty good setup like this. I've used it for a long time like this until my projects became too big. So I had to give a priority to the outliner because I wanted to see up and down full screen. And you can start like this. And we need to change some stuff because by default, Blender doesn't work really well with our type of work, let's say, like the snapping settings. Let's click snap on here, the little magnet, and let's click the options here for the snapping. And we have the snap that we have is the increment snap. That means that we will move with a certain increments in Blender, and no one really wants that. So just click on the vertex option, and the snap base is closest, and the snap target is vertex. The snap base, I will tell you again, it means from where to snap, and the snap target is to where to snap. So I'll select my cube, I'll press Shift and D to create a duplicate, and I will leave it here. And since I have my snap on, I will press G for grab or move, let's say move. So, and it snaps here. Okay, so the closest vertex, so the closest part of this item, the one that's moving, snaps to the first vertex, since we have it in the option, it sees. Now, I cannot snap this, I cannot snap this side to this side because it's not the closest. That's what this means. It's not the closest. So, but what we can do now, and you will use it a lot, is to press B. So let's go again. G for grab, it moves. Okay, B for selecting snapping points, and I want to, from here, to snap it anywhere I want. And this is what you are going to do most of the time. Anyway, now, next to snap on your left, there is a transform pivot point. Click on it and select bounding box center. That means it will try and read a box that is not real box that engulfs the whole of the object. Right now, you don't see any difference because our shape is a box. Anyway, you will use all the other stuff at some point, but for now, the easiest thing is to take the transform pivot point to box, bounding box. So that's finished with here. Next, we are going to go to the options panel here and change our units. So we go to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth panel from the top, the fifth icon from the top, which is called scene. We click on units and we change the length to centimeters, because most of the time, I know maybe meters, it's better for buildings or large projects, but it's not good for details. It doesn't really change anything except the keystrokes you press on your keyboard trying to write a number. Because let's say I want to move something by 1 centimeter. If I am on meters, I would have to type 0.001 to move. And I would type most of the time 0 point something, and it's too many keystrokes. You don't want something like that. Other than that, you don't change anything here, and you will see that in our panels everywhere it says centimeters. So next thing we are going to change is something that is important for rendering. And we go to the second icon, which is called render. And we need to change something before we can change something here in the preferences. Edit, click on edit preferences, and hopefully you have a graphics card that is good enough to handle rendering, or at least you have a graphics card, I hope. So we click on system and we select what rendering device cycles, the render engine of Blender, we would like to use. If you have an RTX, NVIDIA RTX graphics card, which is after the 2000 series, like 2060, 2070, or 2080 and above, 360, 370, you click on the optics, GPU acceleration. Other than that, if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, you click on CUDA. And if you have an AMD graphics card, you click on HIP, HIP. And it says below AMD Radeon graphics. Now, what you see here, it's just that it recognizes my motherboard's graphics card, the integrated graphics card, which is just to turn on the PC, nothing more. So I click on optics and it says NVIDIA GeForce, okay. And we go here, save preferences, click, and it's saved. And we close this panel. And now we can go to the properties panel, second icon, render, and we click on, it says now render engine Eevee. Eevee is a real-time render engine of Blender, but it's not realistic. It's just to understand materials, and if you're good enough and give it a lot of time and a lot of work, it might give you something nice. But the animation, if you want to create an animation, it's because it's real-time rendering, you will render a 5-minute animation in 1 hour, let's say. But if you have cycles, which is a ray traced engine, and tries to give out the most realistic results you can have, a 5-minute animation can take you up to a week to render. So you can understand why we have two different render engines. So we click on here, Eevee, the drop-down list, and we choose cycles. Workbench, it's something else, you won't use it. So we click on cycles, and be careful now because it says, it opens some options and it says device here and it writes CPU. If you don't change this, even if you have a good graphics card, it will try to render using the CPU, which is a lot slower than GPU. Your CPU might have 12 cores. Your GPU has hundreds, maybe thousands of cores. That's why at some point 10 years ago we switched from CPU rendering to GPU rendering. So we click on GPU compute, and please, above where it says supported, change it to experimental and don't worry about it. So last thing here, well, not last thing, we will go to sampling. And first, just do what I will try to explain. Just click on, you have two different samplings because you have two different renderings. One is the viewport rendering, what you see now, and one is when you press the key to render the image and save it on your disk. So we have viewport sampling and render sampling. And for both, we would like very much to use the denoise option. Uh, if you try to render an image and you want this image to be really clear and all the light rays calculated, it would take you a long time, hours probably. And the denoise option is does the following. It assumes it calculates less rays, light rays, and the parts that have not been rendered, it assumes the pixels that are on to be rendered, it assumes what they would be. It's like AI thing. And it cuts rendering times to almost nothing. So the noise threshold 0.2, these settings are after a lot of experimentation. The max samples to 128, and that's it for the viewport sampling. The render sampling, let's go to 0.1. The max samples to 512. The min samples to 128. And in the denoise options of the render, the viewport denoise already has clicked the use GPU for denoising because it's a process that needs calculations. So also in the render sampling denoise, click on use GPU. Now, final thing for this part. At the bottom, you will see the color management tab. And for all tabs, you see at the right point some dots. That means you can click and drag, hold click and drag the tab somewhere else. So I place it at the top because I changed this a lot. We click on the color management tab to open. And this is the view. It says view. Let's go from the start. Display device, sRGB. All, like 99% of display devices use the sRGB color space. If you would like to know more about color spaces, it's linked to color theory and computer, rendering stuff from the beginning. That the display device uses the super RGB color gamut, which is a defined color space that tries to show true colors like in nature, but it's very limited. But your device uses this color gamut. Below, you see it says view transform. Now, before your image presents itself on your screen, it's very different from what you see. Your computer thinks of colors very differently than what you see at the end. So your colors before the view transform, before they reach this point, the AGX view transform, are really bright, burned, overburned. The pixels, some pixels are overburned, some pixels are shadowed too dark. So the AGX transform takes those numbers of colors, because for your computer colors are just numbers, and scales them down to more human perception. Okay, and Well, anyway, let's finish that and I will show you some examples. And below it says, look, this is more of an artistic setting. It says punchy. I will tell you why it's called punchy. I won't tell you why it's called punchy. I will tell you what it does. Grayscale, very high contrast, and these are types of contrast. This is just artistic. That means after the PC scaled down the values of your image to something your eyes can see better. After that, would you like to place another transform, another type of contrast on your image? You could do it afterwards in Photoshop or Lightroom, but the big difference is that Blender thinks of images in 32-bit depth, color depth, which is a lot higher than the 8-bit or 16-bit color depth that Photoshop and Lightroom translates the colors of the render. So if you change the contrast now inside Blender, it would be better than change it later on. On Photoshop and in Lightroom, we just tweak a bit our colors. We don't try and change the whole rendering. That's why we now have the viewport rendering, so we can change things and make an image that we like on the fly at this point before rendering. Just to inform you, 10 years ago, we didn't have viewport rendering, and we just waited for 1 hour for the render to finish. And if something went wrong, we have to change that and render again, wait another hour, and it was crazy. Anyway, so we have finished with that also, and other than this, you don't need to change anything else on your Blender. Next things we are going to change is things that you might like more as an individual, like placing some stuff on your quick favorites panel, or making some custom shortcuts or stuff like that. Okay, so last important thing, file defaults, save startup file, and if it says overwrite, I'll press cancel because I don't want to overwrite my startup file. And if you do this each time, your Blender will start with this layout. Now, I will turn back to my beloved Blender, the way I have it. It's like I went to someone else's house and I am back to mine now. So this is my Blender. It's not really that different than what you will have. And please play with the panels and the windows. Again, as I said at the last class, there is no point for you to try to be clones of me. You will like different parts in Blender, and your Blender will be unique as you like it. Some maybe would like a Blender that is pink. Who cares? If you make a correct image, do whatever you want with your Blender. And now I see that my Blender is a bit changed here. Anyway, my add-ons, where are my add-ons? Everything's falling apart. Anyway, what we are going to do now is to create a very basic structure of something that you use a lot of the time, and that is a bookcase or a cabinet. Let's see, 2 sides, 1 top, 1 bottom, 1 back, 1 door, some shelves, really basic stuff. We will make it in a nice way. First, create a basic shape, very basic stuff, and then try to make it better by using modifiers. Okay, because if we have a bookcase, it's essentially the same shape repeating itself. My add-ons are missing. I will have to fix it now. Something went wrong. Wait, maybe if I close everything. Haha. Here we are. So, so let's delete this plane I have. Let's create the side of the bookcase. Shift A. Wait. Screencast keys open here. So Shift A, add. This panel is called add. I want to add a mesh, and it has the shape of a cube. Now, I have told you before that when I have placed the option to, when create a new shape, to take me directly to tab, but for you it will look like this, and we have a cube of dimensions 2 by 2 by 2. Of course, we don't want something like this. We want 240 as a height. We want a depth of, let's say, 40, and a width, a thickness, because it's a panel, it's a wooden panel, of 2 centimeters. And this is our panel. You can see our origin point, this blue dot, is at the center of our object, and we will take it down to the bottom of it by clicking here on options. I hope, if you would like me to take it a bit slower, and because you are trying to match my speed, just raise your hands and I will take it down a bit. Yes, please. So I want to take my origin point to the bottom, and I will click here in options, and I will click on origins. It's the origins of each item, and I select my item, and you see it's not very clear to see that I have 3 axes appeared, Y, X, Y, and Z here. And whatever I do now, it happens only on this axis. I cannot change my model. I can only move the origin point. So since I want to move it, I will press G to grab it. I grabbed it. And I will press Z to lock its movement on the Z axis. And you see that a blue line appeared. And if I move my mouse, don't click anywhere. If I move my mouse, it moves only on the Z axis. And I will try to find the snapping point at the bottom. You can also see you cannot zoom in and out. So you better view the whole object before you do this. I want to find the snapping point here, but I check above for the magnet, the snapping icon, it's turned off. But no worries, if I press Control and hold Control down, it temporarily turns snapping on. So I take my mouse near to a vertex at the bottom, it found it, and I click, and the command has ended. The origin point has been placed at the bottom. Of course, it will find the vertex if in the snapping options you have selected vertex to be found. Okay, so now if I don't go back to options and turn off the origins, I cannot do anything else. So we go back to options and click origins. And now let's look at our beautiful box sideboard of the whole library we are going to make. So what I see now as an experienced Blender user is the scale of my item looks really weird. On the x-axis, it says 0.01, on the y-axis 0.2, on the z-axis it's crazy numbers. And that is because I changed its dimensions before from 2 meters at each side to something different. it's really important to reset the scale of the object, because anything you do to the object changes according to its scale. And if, just to see, if we click back on origins, you will see that the three axes look really different. The z-axis is really big, the y-axis is smaller, and we can't even see the x-axis. That is because it's trying to warn us, look, something weird is happening. There are times that you would like to have a weird scale here, but these are not the times. So to reset something in Blender, press and hold Control and then press A, and the apply panel to apply the scale or the location or rotation or all transformations or a lot of other stuff exist in this panel. Control A to open the panel, and then click on scale, and you see the scale resets itself to 1. What else do we see? Now, it's how do I turn off the Sarah's hand in the maybe you want to ask something else and I cannot tell. Great. So first of all, you have to develop your vision. You have to look the whole screen at the same time. And if something weird appears, you will know what to do. The next thing I see that is a bit weird is that on the Z location, and that is the location in world space, my object is 1 meter and 20 centimeters below. It says minus, but my floor is probably at 0. So I click on the z-axis, type 0, and my object just went a bit up on the floor. Now, this is the first left, let's say left panel of the bookcase. I did a great job and I want to duplicate it. So if you want to duplicate something, there are two ways. The first way is to create a duplicate that has no connection to the original object. If you change the duplicate, nothing happens to the original item. And that is by pressing and holding down Shift and then press D. Now, don't do anything else, just see what happened in Blender. If you see my object became white, in reality, you see the duplicate object being above the original one. My cursor changed into something that looks like move arrows to all directions. On the left, on the outliner panel, it created something that is called cube 0.001. And we have a lot of options in the line below. And a panel appeared on the bottom left corner that says Apply Object Transform. Now, let's just move our new object 40 centimeters to the right of our original object. If I try to move my mouse now, you can see, whoop, this is the duplicate, but it goes wherever. So we need to constrain its movement by pressing X. X is the red axis. So, and we need to tell it how much now. I haven't clicked anything else. I just pressed X to constrain its movement. Now I press the distance. Let's say in between, I would like to have 40 centimeters. So 2 centimeters its width and 42. You can see on the top left corner, it says D, up and down, point, whatever, 42 centimeters along global X axis. Okay. If you did a mistake, don't click anywhere, just press backspace to delete the number you just wrote. And let's say press 45. Or two times backspace and write 60. No problem. Now, if you would like it to go on the other side is the negative x-axis. So you must press minus and it goes to the other side. And now, if you say, oh, I did a mistake again, I don't want to go to the left side, the minus side, don't worry, just press minus again. And it goes positive. Now, maybe you just wanted to go to the y-axis. Press y, and it goes to the y-axis. Minus, it goes to the negative y. Oh, mistake again. Whatever you do, just don't click. Okay, so until you're sure that this is what you want. So, backspace, 42. And now we can press enter, finally. And this is a duplicate. If we press tab to go to edit mode, and we can look up here on the top left corner, it says edit mode, okay? If we press tab again, it says, look, it will say object mode. We are manipulating objects. If we press tab, come on, tab, we are editing objects. And if you are curious and click on the drop-down list, we have sculpt mode, sculpt objects, vertex paint, you don't need this right now. Weight paint, that's another thing. Textured paint, you can guess what this is. Anyway, edit mode, we're on edit mode, and on the right side of edit mode, it has vertex select, edge select, and polygon select, and face select. And if I select these vertices, let's say, and press G to grab and move them, you will see that the original object that we created, the duplicate, doesn't change. Now, I want to delete this object. I went off of edit mode because if I am on edit mode and press delete, it will delete the vertices, not the object. So I get off edit mode. My object is selected and I press delete. Or if you don't like the button delete because you have to move your left hand and you will see that placing your left hand in a position that is familiar, you can do a lot of shortcut keys. And if you take it up and press delete, you might lose this position and you have to look at your keyboard again and place your hand correctly. So that's why they have placed a shortcut for delete on the X button, and we press X, but now it asks us delete selected objects, and we click on delete. Now, because it's a bit frustrating that it asks us to delete something because we clearly want to delete something, what it does is that it takes it changes the position of this window so that the delete option is under your cursor and you don't have to aim and click. And that is a really nice feature. See, the delete button follows me and really you don't have to think about it. Just X click. It's that simple. And this happens to all the windows, unless your cursor is in a position that the window doesn't fit. Like if I right click here and you see this whole list cannot go off the program, so my cursor won't be always targeted on the specific option, on the option that I used last time. Anyway, now I told you there are two kinds of duplicates. Shift and D to create a duplicate without connection to the original object. And if you press Alt and D, you again, this is similar to the first option. It's a duplicate. Let's constrain its movement to the x-axis, right? 42, enter. And this is a duplicate that is an instance of the original. That means if I go to edit mode and move it, the original moves also. This is very, very handy, as you might think, because in our bookcase, all the panels, the vertical panels, are exactly the same. Now, if I select this instance duplicate and I press Shift and D, nothing weird happens because I created an original duplicate, let's say. One last thing, which is really nice, is that let's say my bookcase has the vertical panels on a specific distance between them. It's easy for me if I press Alt and D to create an instance duplicate, constrain its movement to X, 42, enter. And now, if I want to repeat my last command, I can press Shift and R as many times by I'm holding Shift now and pressing R many times. And all of these things are instance duplicates. You can start to imagine what you could do with this in your architectural designs to change things really fast. Let's say I will explain. I place these things here. I'll place some edges here, and I want to move this and this. Maybe this is a weird facade or something. I don't know. And everything follows undo, undo, undo. Now, let's talk about undo. Control Z is undo, okay? And Control Shift and Z is redo. Okay, which is really nice. And one last thing on the startup file I didn't mention. Now what you see is these black lines around my objects. This is the wireframe. You won't have it. Probably Sarah doesn't have it. She doesn't see it like this. She probably sees them like this. I'm talking about Sarah because she's trying it right now. And you need to go here on the shading on these little spheres. The first one is wireframe. The second one is a shaded polygons. The third one is the EV preview material. And the last one is the rendering viewport. Anyway, if you go to the shading, the viewport shading, and you click on the little arrow here for the options, you can click on outline, and it helps with visualizing the items. Of course, there are a lot of more to talk about here. Like you can have, if you create highly reflective images and models, and let's say you want to see the curvature of the item, then you see that the surface reflects correctly this lamp, let's say. And if I try to change its geometry here, don't worry about this. You can check how if the reflections are smooth, and you can check your curvature. Anyway, there are a lot of things to check here. Also, the shortcut to turn on and off the wireframe is by pressing Shift, Alt, and Z. Shift, Alt, Z turns it on. And also, you would like to check this window, the overlays window, which is a helpful options. It's something that overlays what you see, so it can help you. And you see here geometry wireframe. It's clicked on, and it changes the opacity of the wireframe and stuff like that. It's fun to play with all this. Anyway, I guess I have 2 minutes. So we can also create, because we like it, these dimensions. The only, I want to create the shelves now. The only dimension for this piece I really don't like is the 240 centimeters height, but I will press Shift and D to create a duplicate. I will press R to rotate it. Now it rotates anywhere, but I will constrain its movement, its rotation to the y-axis, okay, the y-axis, and I will write 90 and enter. And I will go close to see. Also, if you are far away and you want to get closer, you can press the dot on your numpad next to enter, and it zooms in. So I want to zoom in. Of course, this is not correct placement. So press G to grab it, and I want specific points to snap to. So I press B and select those points. Select the starting point and the end point. Now, the only thing that is going wrong is the length of this item. And there are two ways I can change it. Either I change this dimension to 40 and it's finished, but then I will have to apply the scale, because you see the scale is messed up right now, scale, or undo. I can press Tab to go to edit mode, click on the vertices, select these vertices, and a problem will appear now, but I'm letting it go for you to see. Move G for grab on the x-axis, and you see, and I snap it here. Now you see something weird happen. A vertex was left behind, because as I was trying to select these vertices, I can only select what I see. So I can go to the viewport shading, click here, viewport shading sphere, and now I see the missing vertex, and I can select them, and everything, of course, is in X-ray mode. Move to the x-axis, control temporary snap here. Now, what I have, and this is the way you make shortcuts, the shortcuts you want, is that I have placed a shortcut on this sphere, and the shortcut is spacebar. You remember it asked you at the start that would you like your spacebar to be the play button for your timeline? And since you're not doing animations, you don't need to use it. But because it's a very convenient key on your keyboard, I use it as an X-ray shortcut. So how do you create shortcuts? You see the command in Blender that you would like, you take your cursor above it, you right click, and it says assign shortcut. You click assign shortcut, and it says now press a key, and I press space, and it's done. Now if I press space again, you see it goes to X-ray mode. Or maybe this one, sorry, this is yeah, it's a wireframe mode, but it's not an X-ray mode. You see, in X-ray mode, this icon. So let's do it again. I like this icon. I want to place it in a shortcut. Right click on it, and now because it already has a shortcut, it says change shortcut or remove shortcut. If I press change again, press a key, I press space bar. Now the difference between those two is that here in the toggle X-ray button, it keeps the colors of the model. And you see, this is a blue box, this is a green box, and this is a beige box, whatever. And it keeps the colors a little bit nicer, but here it turns everything to this weird stuff. Anyway, so I want to remove my shortcut from this sphere. I did a mistake. Let's go again, right click, remove shortcut. And that's it. So the space bar is good to be X-ray mode. So I can select, press tab. I see all the vertices. G for move, X axis, control for temporary snap, click here. Now I can, last thing for today, because I'm off by a lot. So I have selected this object. I will, you don't have this panel, you have this panel. You go to the modifiers panel on the properties tab, here with a wrench, click, and you add the modifier. You don't have this list, but anyway, you will figure it out. I have hopes for you. So I want to select the array modifier, and let's make it a little bit bigger. And I want to unclick. You don't need to remember this. I will click on the constant offset, open the panel. On the z-axis, I want 60 centimeters, 0 on the x. Where it's on the y, on the it's on the x. Okay. Here, but minus 60, and I want count of here. Anyway, now my sideboard is not good enough. It lacks 2 centimeters, so I select these vertices, and because everything is instance, I'll move it to the z-axis, and everything moves together. Snap here, done, and Alt and D here, Shift and R here. Oof. Any questions? That's great. So I hope it cleared up a lot of things. Don't forget to open your Blender daily to get familiar with it. And next lesson, I hope we will have less talk and more modeling. So thanks everyone, and I'll see you on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Liam.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.